All right, good morning, everybody. TG here. Let me get I don't know what is going on with the restream. Hmm. Oh, let's see. Why is this not working? Yeah, just give me 2 seconds. I feel like the screen should be up here. Why is it not doing it? Hmm. Yeah. um, Something like that. I don't know why this thing is not broadcasting. Let me see if I can stop sharing and retry again. There we go. Okay. Now we go. Yeah, I need AI tech support. There we go. Okay, looks like we're good to go out there on the social medias. We got YouTube, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. And here we go. I think we finally got the market to do something, and it came to the downside. And of course, market does it mostly in an overnight condition. You gotta love it. You gotta be positioned the day before in order to really take advantage of this stuff. That always makes it a little bit challenging. And let's see. Okay, I think we're still good on the restream out there. And then even yesterday, a little bit of a head fake, wasn't it, guys? Yesterday the market actually it dipped down. So again, kind of teasing to the downside, and then up it goes. And we actually close over some of the moving averages. Now, the one thing I can really point to for the SPX, and we'll see what the Nasdaq does. And again, this is super duper close, but the right here, we had actually the Moxie indicator continue to stay red. And I guess you could make the argument that the 8 was below the 21. It's pretty hard to really make any kind of assessment. But then you can look here, look at how about this trend line? You got that trend line right there. And again, as I said, it just all happened in the overnight. Finally broke down, and we opened with a gap down this morning. But we have been very, very light on our positions. We did actually short WDC, so I got a little bit of short exposure out there. Brighter side, how you doing with the VIX and the UVIX? Did you manage to get any? Because I know you're still all about that. So yeah, good. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, good job being able to short some of that stuff. I'm actually feeling quite at peace. I hope you guys are doing okay. I don't want you to see this like me taking a victory lap or anything, because I'm not like making a ton of money on the moves or anything, but I am feeling very much at peace that when the market, even on a big down day like this, and the market's kind of rolling over and stuff like this, feeling fine. Pretty light on some stuff. I cashed in some things that were going up. We got out of FNGU, which was like -2.5%, which is nothing. We got the WDC working a little bit. We do have XHB continuing to be down. That's kind of the only headache right there. But other than that, we got MSTR is actually bouncing back. We got now NOW, which is actually looking all right. I'm like, okay, kind of navigating this market okay. I know years ago, as a new trader, getting surprised by something like this on a day like this, you panic and then you have to get out and just being behind the 8 ball. And I'm feeling pretty good about things. And hopefully, I've been guiding you guys as well to kind of stay nimble, stay light. If something's not working for you, get out fast. All that kind of stuff. But yeah, let me see if I have this on. Maybe this looks like this kind of trend line. And then let's go look at the NASDAQ. And then, JB, I'll take a look at your question as well. And if we do this, let me then bring up, drum roll, let's bring up that. See if I can find it. Is it this one? Oh, not quite. I'm trying to find that NASDAQ. How about this one? There we go. Second time's a charm. How's that? Now, just because we guided or kind of future called this, predicted this. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to take a trade. I didn't have a position on the Nasdaq, but this thing that we talked about, I think, what all the way back, what date was this? Around the 20th, February 20th. We were kind of talking about the idea of having this kind of do a bear flag up into resistance, and then if it rolled back over. And so, if we do that and we look at what we're dealing with right now, it's kind of there. Maybe not the most, not the most extreme, but you got your right there. You kind of got that right there. And actually, now that we're looking at this, let's try this. We got a line here. Oh, look at that. It's funny. You kind of see it after the fact. Let me duplicate that. And right about there. Look at this. What I'm trying to get at is you see how yesterday, that move up yesterday actually hit the underside of the trend line. How interesting. And of course, I'm drawing it right now, but you can see here that we had the channel. So that was the channel we were looking for and generally there, and then wanted to see if this thing was going to roll over. And well, there you go. And how interesting that yesterday, that up move, so we opened with a gap down and we went right back up here. Look at that. We hit the underside of the trend line, and that turned out to be the resistance. So we got that. Pretty good snapback so far. They really drained it down today, and then we got a snapback today. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a walk down day or something like that. The internals were very, very negative. I mean, they're still very heavy. So we did get a snapback, but I doubt the market's going to really go much of anywhere. And not everything is like, it's not like a bloodbath out there. We've been looking for increased correlations, and there is some of that. We're starting to see the XLP come down. We're starting to see XLU and even XLV, the areas that were kind of defensive, the memory stocks, memory chip stocks, those are finally coming down. But then on the flip side, we're seeing MSTR, neutral. It doesn't really care about what's going on with the market. Now that's peanuts compared to what it's been doing here. I think I've been seeing some things on social media. It's like, oh, crypto up 17%. You got everybody cheering. It's like, yeah, we'll just ignore the down 80%. So there's that. And this is I came out with a video yesterday. It was internal to the simpler trading community, and that was kind of my thesis was, you know what? I think things like this are so incredibly oversold that even if the market goes down, this isn't where they're going to keep pushing. Okay. The bears are full, they're happy, they're going to go into hibernation because they're just so stuffed from all the meals they've had coming down here, that they're looking at this, and the risk to reward on the downside is just not there. Compared to, you're looking at Micron. Yeah, there was more meat on the bone to the downside for this kind of stuff. So that's why I think we are probably getting a bit of a rotation, a rotation back in some place, because you can see that how this has been doing great, crypto's been doing terribly, and maybe we get a little rotation. I don't know how far down MU is going to go. I'm not saying it's going to crash and burn like crypto, but I could see institutions starting to look at this and be like, yeah, the risk to reward on the upside, not really there right now. And then on the downside, crypto kind of risky to the downside. So maybe we actually start getting a little bit of reversion to the mean type stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. And as far as FNGU, JB, I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed that this is holding up the way it is. We looked at the overnight, and this is what I said this morning post. You can clearly see that yes, we got some big moves to the downside in the overnight. But if you notice, even in the overnight, it started to bounce back. So I thought, okay, well, this isn't going to be too bad. And then when we first opened this morning, I think, what do we do? Open here, and we immediately went up like that. I'm like, that's pretty impressive. So once again, I think the idea of some of these areas are so oversold that that's not what they're selling into anymore. And that's not what's taking the market down. It's other areas that are taking the market down, like the semiconductors. SMH is down. NVIDIA's hanging in there a little bit, but it seems as though whatever else in the market is coming down, it's their turn to take the market down. And then things like FNGU, they kind of went down a little bit, but now they've snapped back. I mean, we're pretty much at the same spot where I exited this morning. and we're only 1.5% down from where we actually entered yesterday. So this is hardly anything. Now, could it get worse? Of course, anything get worse. Maybe if they finally need to sell everything, okay. But I'm kind of looking at this stuff. I'm like, well, it seems to me they're probably done selling this kind of stuff. And maybe what we do is we just kind of chill out. We base here. Maybe the market continues to come down. And then whenever the market's done going down, we go up, then maybe we all go up. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Maybe money is starting to rotate into here because I don't think we're not in a bear market. I just don't think we're in a bear market. I don't think money is leaving the market. I think that money is rotating around the market and trying to find a home. And when we started looking at stuff like XLP getting way too overbought, which is something I've been talking about for a couple weeks at this point, what we wanted to see is there going to be increased correlation, and it's still kind of interesting because the S&P and the Nasdaq are going down and XLP is going down. So you could say there's increased correlation. However, you look at IGV, you look at FNGU, look at crypto, and you probably look at some other places that have been beat up, and they're kind of really not going down. They're actually kind of chilling. So maybe we got some rotation coming out of the defensive stuff into other things that are probably going to go at least sideways. And so again, it kind of feels like money's rotating around, and maybe we can kind of just, yeah, brighter side. You're not in a bear market yet. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Of course, that's the thing. It's like, yes, are the musical chairs going to finally end? Are we just temporarily holding out until really we start to crash? I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But for now, kind of just this rotation seems to be alive. So we'll see. We'll see. So JB, I think as far as the FNG and the question you had, I'd make the argument that for now, I think you're totally fine. If you got like you got a buy stop into this, bought the dip, cool, cool, good for you. And I just like being light and nimble. This is a market I've been telling you guys that I've been. If something's kind of not working or whatever, I just kind of get out real quickly and I just say, fine with it. But my goodness, I mean, this isn't doing much of anything. I really feel like I probably could have left it on, but I just thought, you know what, I don't need to be participating in things that I'm not totally sure about. And if it was going to go down, obviously we saw the market going down, and I just said, you know what, I'll take my what was it, two? What do we do? About two, yeah, 2.5% loss, and I was just like, whatever, whatever. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you got kind of a dip buy in here, so you're even up 2 or 3% right now. So you've got some cushion. And compared to what the market did today, and you look at FNGU and it's bouncing back, it's actually looking pretty good. So I don't know. I mean, unless this market really starts to careen on over. I mean, today was a pretty good litmus test, I'd say. Oh, Topspin, yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, what were you thinking? Today was such a good trap. What do you think for a bear trap now? Get all the bears down in there, and then they bounce it back up. Because Topspin, I feel like yesterday was a bull trap. Open the gap down, run it back up, making everybody think things are fine and dandy, and then they rip it down today. But yeah, things like FNGU hanging in there, actually doing. I mean, look at that; it's even coming right back right now. And then how's MSTR? Doing just fine for now. Again, everything is temporary. We'll see how long all this lasts. But yeah, MSTR is doing fine. How about BMNR? BMR is a little bit more lazy, but I would imagine they're all going to be moving together generally. So, this didn't really break down too much. And I think Ethereum, yeah, Ethereum's kind of hanging out down there. We'll see if this ends up being a bear flag or if this is actually just a base. And if we look at GBTC, I think it's looking a little bit better than Ethereum, but you can see it's trying to hold that hourly 50, and it looks okay for now. And again, what we're going to have to figure out is over time, and this is what I've been saying in the videos, is this just going to be kind of a lazy move? Are we going to move up a little bit but not do too much? Or are we going to actually snap back to the upside at some point? That's the unknown. We just don't really know what that's going to do. And let's see, NOW. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Actually, yeah, there you go. We're green. We're green. Not too shabby. So that's kind of the thing I was thinking about is which is just so far down. Obviously, the Bears don't want to be continuing to play in this spot, and we'll have a couple. We had a couple dips, like we bought it here and had a little dip, and even a little dip here. But every time, it really wasn't looking anything like the S&P. But again, that's because this thing had been melting down before the S&P ever did. So they're just doing their own thing. They're not in phase with the market, so they're just doing their own thing. Money was running for the hills and getting out of this thing while the market was still going up and doing fine. And so now that the market's starting to look a little bit weak, maybe they're actually starting to come in here. Maybe we actually start to move up a little bit. And IGV probably looks, yeah, IGV generally looks the same. So I think traders are looking at this as a potential opportunity to come in here because if the market's coming down, well, this is probably unlikely to go lower because it's already gone so far down. I mean, it's already been trashed. So I think some dip buyers are coming in here and buying the lows. So I think that's reasonable to think. Whereas on the flip side, you look at SMH and it's like, well, how much more room does this have to the upside? And I was trying to trade this to the downside, but we had a pop up and then we finally rolled over. And I think that does continue to go along with the thing I've been talking about on the weekly and monthly chart is just where does this thing have to go? I mean, you look at that monthly chart and it's like, well, it doesn't have a lot of room to the upside. It's pretty extended up there. And right here, I've been talking about here on the weekly 8 EMA, but it certainly wasn't an easy trade. I took a couple tries on this thing and then it went up and I probably could have caught again on the way down, but I just thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just kind of lay low a little bit. But we did do WDC, so that's working out. We got that yesterday. So, yeah, finding our spots. And let's see, GEV. I finally got out of my second piece on this. Now, whether that's a good idea or not, maybe this goes higher, sure. But what I was looking at here is that this has been a really good move, and we are starting to hit that third ATR on the weekly chart again. Now, of course, maybe it goes a little bit higher. I can always see if we can find a way back in if we want to. But just in case this market did start to get some more correlations and the high things start to come down and the low things start to go up, I did take my last piece off of this. And we made on the leverage ETF from the second piece, I know we got it right there. The second piece we cashed in at 67%. So I just thought it's a good time to kind of take some more chips off the table. Plus, we could see that there was some negative divergence. Moxie indicator down, price up, and then kind of hitting those upper extensions. So I just kind of took the victory lap on that ticker and said, okay. And let's see. Oh, Emil, IPI, kind of a tricky name. That breakout, look at what it did. It came all the way back down to the 21 and to that trend line and right to the hourly 50. So we have earnings coming up, I don't know, in a few days. And we'll have to see if this pullback actually ends up being the spot. I've been a little hesitant to get into it because it has low volume, but just one of those things to discuss. Pop, pullback, and then maybe it goes if the commodity space is going to keep going. I will say, even the commodity space. You guys look at FCX. Here's copper. This is why I said I didn't really want to take the trade. I think Sam put a trade out there. I think it worked. I think he was also very short term, and that's basically what I was saying is I see that it was flagging here. I see that it was generally holding the daily 21 and as it turns out held the hourly 200. But this move, I said, I just can't do it. And you guys remember in the Moxie room, I was very hesitant about something like this because it's just not my kind of setup. It was very extreme. And my concern all along was that it was still too far away from the daily 50 and never actually tested the daily 50. So from my perspective, as far as my kind of trading, it wasn't the right setup for me. And even if you look here, look at that weekly chart. It was still just very, very up there. It's a huge move. And I just didn't feel like there had enough room for me to do much with it. And interesting to see that, yeah, it got yanked down today. I get it. It's bouncing. So we'll have to see what it does. But it just wasn't the right entry for me. And also very interesting to see that gold and GDX also got kind of yanked down today. So I don't know. It kind of feels in a way that the things that were holding the market up the gold, miners, XLV, XLP, I don't know, all the defensive stuff that was holding the market up. Uh, Now that the market is finally breaking down, okay, well, maybe we're starting to get the stuff that was holding the market. Now it's coming down, and the stuff that has been coming down all along and has reached its lows might actually be starting to find some bases and support. Let's see, dollar sign SPXA50R. Let's kind of look at this. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we go. So we're finally starting to see more traction to the downside with breadth. And it was giving us a heads up here with the Moxie indicator being below zero the whole time. So it's been a very interesting market. I think it's just a lot of rotation and a lot of flight to safety. And I think that was masking things for a long time and keeping the market kind of propped up and elevated. But now it seems those flight to safety names are starting to come down. You know, like I said, gold, XLV. You can even see XLV. Let's try it again. XLV starting to kind of come down. But this was my concern right there, is that we had the Moxie price trigger. And Kraut, I know you were asking about this over the last few days, and I know other people, and Sam was trading it, and I said, it seems okay. It could keep going higher. We got defensive stuff going on. As long as price continues to hold the moving averages, then you're fine. But this starts to throw some cold water on the situation to where maybe it's starting to change. So remember, just be nimble in this kind of market. And you can see here, maybe it doesn't go down, but it looks like it's probably going to go sideways for a while. Yeah, just gotta be careful in this market. I think that the things that have been holding up the market seem like they're the ones that are starting to kind of weaken a little bit. Yeah, Walmart. So top spin. Let's see, Walmart. You know, I think I just everything needs to be kind of through a lens of uncertainty, to be perfectly honest. And I'll just say, you're looking here. Walmart still has no issue at all. I would again just be a little bit cautious on this. I will point out that Walmart is getting a little extended on the monthly chart. It was a little extended on the weekly chart. And if we look at here, this could be a bull flag into the monthly, or sorry, into the daily 50. That's a possibility, pull back, pull back, pull back. Certainly could. One thing though, if this changes and starts to get weak, I will point out to you that this might end up being a bear flag, and that you have price over the 50 and the Moxie indicator below zero. And now I know that this looks like it's kind of done that a couple times in the past. It's very wavy. But if this starts to change, and if this does not hold, and if this starts to break over and go this way, what I'm going to be pointing to is this, that you have price over the 50, the Moxie indicator below zero, and that maybe this thing is starting to change. Okay, so top spin, the thing I've been telling is just kind of don't trust anything in the market. For as well as something like Walmart looks like it's been doing well, and maybe you feel like it's still holding up today, yeah, just be careful that there could be some rotation. Maybe some things like this do start to come out a little bit, and maybe it doesn't crash and burn. But as far as getting aggressive to the long side, maybe that's not going to happen either. All right, let's see. MMM, 3M. Yeah, I probably don't have much to say about this thing. I mean, that's just super choppy. I really don't have a lot of guidance that I can do for something like that. What do you try to say? Watch Triple M and watch this still thinking, give a hand. Yeah, the only other thing I can kind of point towards is 3M has come up into a lot of prior resistance. So this has been a great move, but look what it's done. It's coming right up into a big, big level. I think I'd be aware of that, and that it might have a hard time getting through there right now. One other thing, just to note, there's the Moxie price trigger. So you've been noticing price has been going higher, Moxie indicator lower, and that could mean something. I'm not sure I'd really want to press the gas on the long side right this moment, and it is still coming down. So yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to press the gas, but this has been a very challenging chart. It's not something I trade. Let's see, thinking part 150 to 155 is support. It could possibly. I mean, I see why you're saying that. If you look at right there, it kind of looks like there's a level. Sure. So depending on what your position is, if you've got lots of cushion, if you are willing to let it come down to 150 and see if it holds, okay. But if it doesn't, then don't be surprised either. That might be kind of changing trajectory a little bit in through here. But I think you should zoom out and just be aware of why maybe this thing is kind of hitting its head is because of that resistance up there. All right, let's see over in the Moxie room. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've reached irrational exuberance. Definitely not from a market perspective. I mean, trying to reach irrational exuberance, I think, would have been the top of that would have been the tariff tantrums. But even to that, there was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, look how long this thing kind of kept doing this. I feel like irrational exuberance is usually a blow off top, and we didn't get that. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Target, yeah, how's Target doing? Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I guess had earnings. It was up on that. Again, it could be a little bit more of a, I don't know, rotation into the beat up names. And this one's actually been going up because it's been down for so much. So yeah, kind of interesting. Again, another name I don't trade, but yeah, it seems like there could be some rotation into these things. And let's see, Keith, let's see, Apple. Oh, and then Keith, yeah, I'll get back to your email today. I was being a good son. I was down at my parents' house over the weekend. I was doing my taxes. I was building the class. So those of you out there on the social medias, you've probably seen some advertisements, but I am teaching a class March 7th, which is going to be this Saturday. So, yep, this Saturday. And I have my nephew's 1-year old's daughter's birthday that day. So I'm going to be teaching a class, then we have to head out and then go to my 1-year old's birthday. But I was doing some chores. My mom's got this garden thing going on over the summer, and I don't know, Gig Harbor garden tours or whatever. And her house got selected, so she's all happy about it. She kind of revamped the garden and yard and been putting work into it. And so she asked me to do a few things while I was down there. Okay, so Apple good put short. What am I seeing? Kind of nothing. Sorry, there's not much of an answer with Apple. Apple's not really moving. That's always the hard part is what to do with any kind of ticker that's just going sideways. Yeah, and John Bold, I see you out there too. The things I can kind of mention is, Apple got a little extended back here. We can definitely say that. And since then, Apple's kind of pulled back into some potential support, and now it's perfectly sideways. And so the question is going to be, does this resolve up or does it resolve down? For the moment, I'm going to say generally to the upside because you are above an uptrending moving average on the monthly chart. You do still have the 8 over the 21 on the weekly, and potentially the Moxie indicator still above zero and all that kind of stuff. So these time frames look okay. But what we have to do is kind of come down a little bit further and see if we can get any kind of clarity from here. And at this point, it just becomes a little bit murky. And I think what we can look at is we have a pennant. And I think that the idea with this is, well, extend this, and then you kind of figure out which one is going to hold. There's your range, and see if it breaks above or below. And generally, if it can break above, then you're going to go up, and if it break below, you're going to go down. And that's about all I can tell you right there. Yeah, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you finally get wedged so tightly it's got to break one way or the other. And I don't know if we really want to make much of a decision right now, considering what the market's doing. It does seem as though this is a little bit of the flight to safety situation. It is holding up. It's not really down on the market today. It's just kind of been doing its thing sideways. So I don't know if I had to really kind of pick a direction. It seems like this is doing okay, and maybe it goes up eventually. But I just kind of don't trust anything with this market. Let it prove itself. All right. So let's see. I don't even know if I have any of my. Well, there was the class that I'm teaching. Yeah, I don't even have any of the advertisements up, but I'm going to let you guys go from the social medias. Got a nice 30 minutes this morning with you. Just understand that anything kind of goes with this market. We had a big drop down. It does seem as though we have broken finally. We've kind of broken out of this range. And now we see a lot of people are targeting the daily 200, which I think also kind of makes sense if you look right there. So we'll see if that's it. Again, try not to get too short in the hole. I know sometimes especially newer traders. We look at something like this, and be like, "Oh my gosh, I have to get short. This, the world's just going to collapse," and that's not exactly how it happens. It still happens in kind of phases, and that's what it looks like here. We kind of got a little oversold. We bounce, and we'll see if we can continue to roll down a little bit further and see where it goes. Now, Kraut, to your point, is it time to short the VIX? Maybe on a day-to-day basis. If you can just if you want to sell calls or short it intraday, okay. But I can't say anything that tells me that this down move is over, especially after being pent up for this long and we're finally breaking down. I'm not going to say that the bottom is in quite yet. Yeah. All right, guys. So those of you out on the social medias, I see most everybody here that's commenting is on YouTube. Just remember, you guys can check out my videos over there. We have a webinar coming up. I think it's tomorrow. So yeah, tomorrow at whatever time it is. Again, more advertisements will be out there. So if you want to see the webinar, that's kind of telling you how the Moxie indicator works, how I trade with it, and then there's going to be a class on the 7th. Come check that out. So for the rest of you, let me just end the live